.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Revising Reality. I'm your host, Tim Kaiser. I am joined by my great co-host, Crystal Turner, and I'm joined by Trinity on today's show. We're going to be doing an interesting look at symbolism, mind control, MKUltra, electromagnetic warfare, that sort of a thing, like the subversive use of sacred symbolism in mind control and world events. I think this is something that ties into a post that I did last week, since Trinity pointed out I, Pet Goat 2 by Heliofont, which is a really awesome video. If you guys haven't seen it already, I know it passed around the alternative community back in 2012, so it's a while ago, but I had never seen it. It is absolutely astounding in the amount of symbolism within it. But we see that stuff everywhere we look without realizing it. It's on, a lot of us know it's on the dollar bill, but it's also like in the corporate logos that we see all around us. Like, it's everywhere. It's in the TV, it's in what people say. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, that's the kind of the breakdown of where we're going to begin here. Trinity, how are you doing as well?
I'm doing great. Of course, always happy to be here with you guys. I was really happy about the topic, and I'm glad that you brought up iPet Goat. When it came out, the entire community was in a very weird place because of 2012, and it was something that the symbolism had never been shown that way before. Like, I never saw something like that ever. Like in that form, no speaking, no outrageous music, nothing like that. It was just something that you could take frame by frame by frame, and it tells you an entire story.
Oh yeah.
And so many people, I mean, there's probably more videos trying to dissect it. And the way that when you posted it on Facebook, and I made sure I put, it was dissected so many times, everybody was wrong, but everybody was right. Like,
yeah.
There was no wrong answer, no matter where you are in the world or how you feel about it. You will see something that resonates with you when you watch this. I mean,
yeah.
I've heard of people just breaking down crying watching it. So it's fantastic.
I was moved. I was definitely moved. Every time, I mean, I've seen it probably 20, 30 times already. Like, I probably watched it 20 times in a single day the first day. I just kept watching it over and over again, like just decoding and then taking it in. It was a lot of fun. I think it's very powerful. I do want to go into that a little more, and I'm probably going to do my own breakdown on it in the near future, probably this week if I can possibly manage. I know I promised that on the original article. It actually brought in a whole lot of visitors because I posted it everywhere. I reposted like the article that I had done, and the link to the video and all that kind of stuff, as many places as I could, many groups as I could on Facebook, and we pulled in a lot more people than usual to the site last week, especially in that certain day. So that was a lot of fun. I'd never seen that yet. I know it'll happen in the future more often. Unfortunately, I work 2 jobs, so I don't always have enough time. But I'm starting to learn how to manage that a lot better. So I want to apologize to everybody. And I do want to plug I always forget to do this in the first hour. I do want to plug the station. This is entirely listener supported on freedomslips.com or Revolution Radio. So like, you can get a seed pack, you can get access to the archives for this show and every other show, and to help support all the different hosts and support the station itself. So I just want to plug that to all our listeners right off the bat, since I generally forget the past couple times. So, without further ado, we should start getting into this. I did want to ask, though, real quick, Crystal, like, so you're not experiencing any flooding? Because I have a friend, their daughter lives close to the coast, and she's like got 2.5 feet of water in her yard. So that's pretty bad.
We've not had any flooding here. Everything's fine. We had a little bit of light rain last week, but we're good.
That's good. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Actually, the storm's throwing shit up stuff up this way, so we are getting some of that as well. It actually was pouring down rain earlier, but it's mostly quit at the moment. I bet you we'll probably have some more spin off of that storm coming up here in the near future. But
Yeah.
everything's been good as far as internet connection goes and all that stuff. Haven't had any outages and no power outages. Just a couple of
Hopefully nothing will
brownouts.
come up.
No,
Hopefully nothing will come within the next 2 hours, and we can have
yeah,
a
really.
wonderful show tonight. A great topic. This is stuff that I look at a lot because I have had, experience with the MKUltra and electromagnetic warfare and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I thought I wasn't going to come out public about it, but I may as well, admit, that I have been a victim of this and it's ongoing. I have my days with it. And, some days are better than others.
Yeah. Has any of the stuff that the teachings that I learned from Andrew, has any of those helped you? Like Andrew Bartzis, for those of you who do not know on the show, Andrew Bartzis actually has a radio show on Mondays here at the station, and you can call in and get a reading. He uses an awful lot of color, so you kind of have to keep trying. But
I really have not had the opportunity to listen to him as I would like to. So I can't give you an honest answer about whether he's helped me or not because I haven't had the opportunity yet to listen.
well, what I meant was the things that I had told you to do, like the contract revocations. I mean, those
Oh,
did.
well, yeah, they did the day that I did them, but then suddenly, I got off track again. So we're going to try to do that again. I'm going to work with myself with keeping a schedule.
Absolutely cool. Um, So, yes, let's get into this. I do want to kind of play a quick video from Michael Tassarian about this topic, about the subversive use of sacred symbolism to get us started. And then we'll continue to break down this stuff as we go along. It's not going to take very long, but he has some very interesting things to say, and he puts it so eloquently that I kind of feel like he's the right person for the job at this current exact second. So I am going to bring that on. Before I play it, I just want to say that when my audio software pulls that feed in, it'll also try to pull in your feed as well. So don't say anything until I turn off the video. Just type to me, and then I'll turn it off when it's the appropriate time. Just so everybody's aware that will happen. It'll probably do us an echo. So here we go. Okay. So I guess I'm having a goof up with my audio software, so pardon that. So I guess we'll just ignore that for now. I don't know why it's not piping that through. That is kind of sad, but about that at the moment. So anyway, Michael Tassarian starts talking about how you look all around us and we see this symbolism like everywhere. Like it's in everything. There's a lot of Luciferianism, put forth in this stuff. It's basically chaos sorcery, as Mark Passio would put it, and it's used on us all the time. And people would say, "Well, I don't believe in that," but you have to understand that all throughout our history, we've been confronted with this. So it's also within our, how do I put this? It's within our total racial memory. So if you don't believe or think that this stuff affects you in unawareness, it does absolutely affect you. Because it affects us through just about everything. We see it everywhere. It's part of our daily lives, and it's inbred within our very cultural identity. It's inbred within our, as Carl Jung would put it, it's inbred within our collective subconscious as human beings in this world. We have this. We have this everywhere. I don't know how else to put it. Like, I mean, if you look at, say, the Twin Towers, it's also an 11. It's also the pillars, the dual pillars of, Crystal. I don't remember what that was called. I always forget that. Crystal?
Are you
I'm
saying
here.
Freemasonry?
I'm here. You asked
Yeah.
me about the twin
No, I mean,
pillars.
yeah,
The
the
two
twin
pillars are
pillars.
Joaquin and Boaz in Freemasonry, and
Yeah.
I will post a link on my Facebook describing that in a few moments. But it is Joaquin and Boaz are the two pillars, and the twin towers. In my opinion, it was a chaos magic ritual that was performed when they did 9/11. orchestrated 9/11, and those two buildings were symbolic of the two, Joaquin and Boaz, in Freemasonry.
All right. And they're also it's like the number 11. Now, the interesting thing to think about the number 11 is if you combine 9 plus 1 plus 1 in numerology, that is the numerological component of death. So then if you're dialing 911 or the emergency call to, say, the police or an ambulance, you're basically dialing death. Think about that. Whoever set up this system obviously had that in mind, because there's no way that's a coincidence. Like, say, the movie Sucker Punch, if you look at their logo, like, there's 11 clearly in the very end, like where there should be an H, and there's like a sword involved there. Like, if you look that up, very interesting. It's also in the Marlboro packaging, and there's like an 11 right in the middle. If you look at Marlboro, and then you look at MAR, and then the L and the B at in the very middle, like those two basically represent an 11. There's also a lot of symbology in the crest. They have like that. That's actually basically a British crest in the center there, where we would see it first, and that's by Philip Morris is the company. You can see like all of that on the dollar bill as well. Let's see here, the Twin Towers. There's also there's a whole bunch of movies that have this as well. There's also, like, in music, you'll see Rodrigo y Gabriela. They have one of their great albums, actually. It's 1111. It's the name of the album. Now, if you combine the two like that, that's usually a key towards sacred mysticism. So they're trying to turn it into something better there. So it's not necessarily always bad. But if we don't understand these things when we see them, then it's being used on us subconsciously without us being in awareness of it. And that's really the whole key to starting to, break down this whole thing and breaking down our own, cages within our own minds, the mind control system that we're all under, which, even, me or Trinity or Crystal, like, there's still stuff we don't know, that we might have been looking into this stuff for a long time. Like, it's not like we've totally fixed it. I know I haven't, what I mean? Like, I don't know all of the symbolism. I know a bit more than a lot of people I know, in my regular personal life. But at the same time, like, I don't know everything. I really don't. And so the answer is to learn it, is to unmask it, to become, creative in the aspect of understanding what is actually going on around us. It's very important that we start to learn these things and start to be able to break them down for ourselves, so that the chaos sorcery does not have as much of an effect, so that we can break it down and see it for what it truly is. And then our subconscious can actually see the positive within these symbols, so that we can, take that in, as opposed to always seeing the negative. Because so much of it is designed to be negative, and it really is mostly negative until we can break it down for ourselves within our own minds, to recognize it for what it is. Because if we're not aware of it, it is used on us without us knowing. If we are aware of it, we know exactly what it is the instant we see it, and therefore we can call that out and not be affected by it any longer. And I think that's a very important point to be made. I think that goes with almost everything that we discuss here on this show, or anywhere on the internet. If we're talking about these kinds of issues, is that we're trying to bring an awareness to them, so that people aren't being hoodwinked by it. Like, say, we did all the stuff on Fukushima. Now people will know that it's probably a good idea to go out and try to find some of the iodine pills and whatnot to try to protect themselves from radiation, because we've all been dosed by it, all of us. And if we don't know that, then we're just being hit by it all the time without even, understanding that that's what's going on, and our bodies are weakening and we don't even know that.
Right. If I can jump in really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think based on something you had said a couple of minutes ago, saying that once we recognize it, we can go beyond it, or we can, and I was using this word earlier, we can evolve. That's actually, I don't actually agree with that. And the reason why I don't is because it puts us in a different state of mind. Everything that I know today that I didn't know 20 years ago hasn't exactly made my life easier. It's made my life much tougher. Robert Anton Wilson, if anybody knows, he has a book called My Cosmic Trigger Finger is Broken. And he has a part called Chapel Perilous, and it discusses people dealing with research and how you can either walk into it, and you don't stop, or you completely shut down. There is no in between. that's where we constantly find ourselves. This didn't help my family relationships, my personal relationships, how I go to work, and how I see everybody there as cogs in a machine as opposed to people. How I can listen to a conversation about sports or shoes and completely shut down. Finding out what MKUltra, finding out what mind control, finding out almost anything that's outside the circle of most has not made anything easier, and it's not going to for anybody that's even beginning to research. Be prepared. This isn't fun. It's not a cakewalk. A lot of people, and that's I think that's why a lot of people go into the new age stuff because it has a lot of your life will get better, rainbows and ocean sounds and and shit like that. But when you really think about it, there is still a huge part that's missing. And I don't mean things like fight or flight. I'm talking about the survival of the strongest. That's I think that's where mind control comes in. Not as much as the symbology, because the symbols have been hidden. The symbols they show us today, like we're all, have all this hoopla about the Illuminati and the symbols and this and that. They let us have that. That's like a treat. You know what I mean? That's like a treat you give your cat for not scratching your furniture. It's a treat. It's something that it distracts us. It gives us something to talk about. It gives people reasons to sell their things. All of that stuff has its purpose. But the symbols that we don't understand, the things that are truly hidden, I think that the majority of the world is still very incapable of understanding the next step. We're still divided. We can't even discuss why we're here or how we got here, but we're still trying to dissect, aliens and and ghosts and things like that. Like we're like skipping steps. You know what I mean? It's like me going into kindergarten and then trying trigonometry after my first week. It is a long process. It was meant to be hidden. This was not meant for everybody. You're not supposed to just gulp it down and have everything figured out, and then you get to transcend somewhere else. It's never meant to do that. That's why
I
I
agree.
keep away from people that claim to have the answer.
Right.
None of
I
us
don't think
have it.
anybody has the answer. And I will say
No.
this, I agree with most of what you just said. This is not fun. There's nothing cool about this kind of work or research. It's something that I've been doing for a very long time, even before I became known on Facebook. And is I think some people are just genuinely naturally drawn to the esoteric and to the occult. And
Yep.
to understand this symbolism, it's not going to make your life any better. It can help you in better comprehending what kind of spells are being put on us by mainstream media and the commercials and movies that we watch. Just the same with studying predictive programming.
Right.
However, there's nothing fun or cutesy about this. This is, if you're going to do this, go into it 100%.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. This
there's
isn't
a
a 50-50.
lot of misinformation and disinformation out there that would fool anybody that just skims the surface. That's one thing about me. I don't like to skim the surface on anything. I like to think deep, talk deep, and research deeply. And
There you go.
that's why it is a process. It's something you build upon every day. And the more you do, the more adept you become at understanding, and then helping other people that are willing and have the want to understand.
Right,
All
right.
right.
And that I wasn't anything against you, Tim. I was just saying that I remember that in the beginning when I first started researching, I thought that too. I actually convinced myself about 10 years ago, and I don't feel the same way today, but I did at one point that can't remember where I heard it, and I know a lot of people actually agree with this, that when you learn something here and you get to a certain part in understanding things that are hidden, because there's a difference between esoteric and exoteric, right? So there's a
Yeah.
lot of exoteric politics conferences and stuff like that. That's meant for the masses. The esoteric stuff is the stuff that you really gotta to do your work to get into. It's scary, but the more that you do it, such as I'm gonna say the three of us here, we all matched up due to frequency. It's we recognize each other from an entirely different angle. The way that a guy would be attracted to a woman because of her boobs or her butt, people like us in the research field, and the deeper we go, we start recognizing or seeing each other for who we are in that way, on a deeper level. So my appreciation for people in the research world like Tim and Crystal and Tony and Steve and the hosts that I've met here and the people that I've come to truly think of on a very high scale, I've learned from every single one of them. I did not take anything from them that I thought could help me progress in my real life and in my research life. That's why places like this and hosts and guests and all that stuff are so damn important. But we need to keep our minds open on a regular basis. The stuff Tassarian says, he was one of the first people that I've ever researched, and it was architects of control.
Oh yeah.
He's on the mystic side. When you go into other things, I just told him I just started looking into neuroethics. I didn't know. I knew mind control was a serious thing. The symbols, they got that figured out. That's why I wanted to say the symbols they let us see. It's because it's something that we can attach ourselves to. We feel like we're, smoking cigarettes behind the school. You know what I mean? Like, ooh, look at what we found and look at what we know. It's a test. It's all a test. They put stuff in front of you so they can see exactly what it is that you're doing, just to see who can survive it. People like us, the stuff that we research will either cause us to become hermits, introverts, or wind up on medication or even in a psych ward. There's people that have research that have jumped off buildings because they don't know what to do with all of that information. But it's given to us. It just so happens that a very small percentage of us are actually paying attention. The masses aren't. They're under mind control. We're not. Discussing symbols and stuff like that, unless we're going to get into the real deep stuff, that all of us are going to understand. And I don't mean like the $1 bill in the KFC commercial that they hide in the sandwich. I talk about the stuff that causes you to go out there and have feelings to harm people. The feelings that make you want to go out there and hurt your spouse or hurt yourself or go postal. I just saw a documentary about what going postal meant, and it wasn't from the first guy that shot up the postal service. They had been studying the stress at jobs, and they were just waiting for somebody to eventually do it. Everybody in the medical industry, everybody in the government knew that at any point in time, if you put your boot on somebody's neck long enough, somebody's going to lose their shit. And they did. And now we have a term for it. And now we're brainwashed into thinking that, only guys that deliver your mail want to go shoot up, their jobs. And mind control goes deeper into what makes us do stuff on a real life level. It's no longer a dream. It's not behind the curtain stuff anymore. We're actually lashing out and hurting each other physically and verbally. And it's time for us to wake the hell up.
All right. The way I see it is that enlightenment is a very tough road. I mean, I did not mean to try to say it was easy. I only mentioned the slight symbolism that I got into just because it is the surface, but it is a start for anybody who wants to get into it. There's much deeper stuff out there, and you're absolutely correct. So like I wasn't trying to make it seem like it was easier at all, because it certainly isn't. There's so much out there to dig into, and it is scary. It is scary. I mean, it isn't like it makes our lives easier, and you're absolutely correct. It doesn't. But at the same time, if you're unaware of it, then it can be used on you much more easily, and you don't know what's going on. And I find that at a disadvantage myself. Like, I mean, that's just how I see things. I have to know. I want to know. I want to know as much as I possibly can. I want to be open to understand, what's going on. I want to be open enough to be able to, mull over information that might be contradictory to what I think I know, to decide whether or not, that could possibly have a place, within the world, if that actually isn't just this info or a psyop, if it's actually real. And I did want to go into this really quick. I had mentioned this to Crystal earlier in the week. It might have been yesterday. I work with this one kid, and he sometimes listens to my show. He's really cool. He does, he's all about 9/11 being a Bush inside job. But he tried to tell me that, and I thought this was really odd for him, Like he was like, well, I like the flag. He's like, and I like the fact that people. How should I put this? He's like, I like. He's like, I like the Pledge of Allegiance. He's like, I think it's good. He's like, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't think so, man. Do you even like? How in the world can you say that 9/11 was an inside job, right? Which is something that a lot of people say, and still turn around and say that the American flag is anything but a mind control psyop. I was like, did you know? I asked him, did you know that before Hitler's rise to power, that the actual salute to the flag was the raised hand, just like the Hitler salute? He was like, no, and I was like, yeah, you should look into that. He's like, well, I still think the Pledge of Allegiance is good, and I'm like, dude, do you not understand how mind control works? You repeat something so often that you begin to think it's real. That's how nationalism is formed, and it's the only reason they've been able to keep us killing each other over a flag or over an idea of a certain geophysical location being better than one other. I mean, that's the entire basis of the whole operation as far as nations go. And nationalism is one of the biggest poisons out there that you can drink from. I mean, I was very passionately kind of disturbed by what he said. I was like, dude, like, do you understand? This is how it works. They get people to believe that this thing has any meaning whatsoever, and then you go out and you kill each other over this because somebody else has a different stupid flag, just a stupid bunch of different colors on a cloth, and then they wrap your coffin in it when you're dead. I mean, I don't think it could become any clearer than that if you start to look into it, to know that all this stuff is just a game, that all the countries are being run by, certain particular, secret societies, and they all work together to keep us enslaved, keep us in the blind, keep us, fighting each other and hating each other. It doesn't mean anything. Religion's the same way. All of it. It's terrifying when you actually get down to the business. Just like you guys said, it's really a scary thing to start to wake up. I was very scared when I started to wake up, but I kept at it because I wanted to know. I wanted to know more. I was like, how could this possibly be? And I think one of the biggest hurdles for people who are just starting out is a lot of people will tell me there's no way that the government could do that. I mean, there's no way that they could do that to us. Well, then you don't understand psychopaths, because that's exactly what they are. They have no empathy whatsoever to anybody else. They don't care. So, I mean, you'd think that as human beings that they would care, but they don't. They don't have a clue. They don't give two craps about the world's population, whether or not we're
Yeah,
destroyed, whether or not we're harmed. Um, it's terrible.
that's what I was saying the other day about how people who are like ourselves, empathetic and compassionate towards others, how we just, like, for myself, I can only really speak for myself. I can't understand how psychopathy works. That's not my way of thinking or being. So it's hard for me to believe that someone else would do that. Yet they have been doing it for thousands of years now. Just because, I can feel for another human being doesn't mean that everyone is like me.
Very true. I wish that more people would wake up to that, because the people on the top are psychopaths. I mean, there's no way you could most that's the thing with our power structure and the hierarchy and how it's set up, is that if the more psychopathic you are, the more you don't care if you step on other people's toes, the higher you will go, the faster you will go, because you could step on other people's toes just to get that next promotion, or just to get that next point in the or brown nose for the boss, to get the more money or whatever it is. You don't care. So therefore, it doesn't matter to you if you harm other people on the way, to wherever it is you want to be. And that's pretty sad, that our entire structure is set up the way that, so those people are the ones who are going to make it to the top first. Those people are the ones who are going to be on the very top at at all times, because they're the ones who climb the hierarchy and don't mind destroying other people. And that's another thing that Satanism promotes, is the personal power at the expense of others. They don't mind if they harm other people. They don't have any problem with that. And it's really sad that that's the case. But it is. We are, surrounded all sides by people at the topmost power that do not care about human beings or human suffering. And that is one of the reasons why the whole system continues to operate as it does. That's why they always find more people to sell out one another to make it to that point. And it's horrible.
Right. I think the scariest part about that is that we think that they're making it. You know, if let's say you got this one boss or a manager, not a boss, but a manager, right? Horrible, horrible person, you know, doesn't care about anybody, cuts your hours over the littlest thing, ready to dock your pay. Yes, that person will make an extra buck, right? Maybe an extra buck 50. A lot of the time we assume that they're running it or that they're, you know, they're going higher on the ladder. It's not because of the way that the people that are even above them see them. They see them as little soldiers, you know what I mean? Just doing our bidding. It's the reflection that they give of themselves, and that's a, you know, a form of sociopath. So it's that vibe we get from them. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm just so important and I do this stuff. I just started a new job and there was a lady that she was like that. And she's just standing behind me, standing. I'm getting really annoyed because she won't move. And her job is to watch me. But every time she would stop me from doing my job, I was doing it correctly. She just didn't see from where she was standing. So she's interrupting my flow. So one of the other managers, because there's managers everywhere, she comes up to me and she's like, "Oh, she's just like that." And I'm like, "Do you think that I care that she's just like that?" I was like, "She'll never advance in her job. This is her job. She gave herself that authority." You know, like you have to have that mental capacity of just being so evil, you know, within yourself, or having so much ego upon yourself. um, she's not going to get fired, but she's not going to get promoted. They're not going to make her the VP of the company. They know she's a piece of crap. You know, and everybody else does. Nobody respects her. You know what I mean? Everybody
Yeah.
talks about her behind her back. She just has a sense of self-worth so high that it, like, you know, drools all over everybody else with it. You know what I mean? It takes somebody to say, you know what, it's fine that you're full of yourself, but a true company would only see you as uh you know, we're the people underneath her, so we would be the gun and she's just the bullet, but bullets can be disposed. So, you know, it's another mind control. She's probably more mind control than anybody else and not even notice it. Especially in work positions, right? You have two jobs. I'm working in this gigantic corporation that I freaking can't stand, but I'm working there. And I see so many people leave work and like talk about them on Facebook, like it on Facebook, you know, wear the logos outside of work. That's another form of the company owning you. You know, like it's bad enough that you get a check with their name on it, right? And you don't even have to like your job, but now you're like, it's a walking talking commercial. And
Yeah.
I've seen people that they work, and I know she's going to hear this. She works at McDonald's, and she has pictures on her Facebook. Her cover photo has her with the McDonald hat on. I'm like, dude, take the hat off. You're not, like, this is your downtime. This is your social media, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and all the pictures are in McDonald's. And I'm like, dude, like, people would think you sleep at McDonald's. Just, we get it. I mean, it's not something to write home about, but they have that inner promoting where they brainwash you from within. I think the big corporations probably have the same brainwashing techniques that they have for like the police academies.
Pretty much.
You know what I
They
mean?
they perfected that. I mean, they really have perfected that.
They
It's
really have.
everywhere too.
Yes.
I mean,
So,
I know it doesn't always work on everybody, because there are people, you know, who just don't want to jive with that. They understand that it's not that great, and then they don't want to jive with that. But honestly, like, it's really everywhere. I mean, my dad works for a company that's just absolutely horrible, and they just keep ratcheting down on everybody because they don't want. They're trying not to lose money, but they're destroying people over it. He doesn't have, you know, a very good time as far as that kind of stuff's, you know, going on. Um, it's it's very sad to see it, and as it continues to go, and it's like a big company and they're falling apart, and so they're, you know, they're harming their own employees to make keep up, you know, the productivity.
right, right.
So
And that's how it really goes. So when you see it
yes.
and you don't understand it, and not just their logos, it's literally, I sat through 3 days of training, and there was a portion that is explaining to you how to get on work to work on time, right? So everybody has a button to press. I swear, it's like a Family Feud episode, right? So everybody has an assigned button, and then when you know the answer, you click it. But whatever answer you pick will be assigned to your name onto a computer, right? So the question was, what does, and I'm going to say Tim, what does Tim do? So they show a car and they show the car breakdown, and they're like, how could Tim have avoided his car breaking down and not showing up to work on time? So the answers were like, does he get a cheaper car? Does he go to a dealership? Does he go to a bank? Or does he just quit? And I put dealership, and everybody was like, no, the answer is bank. And I said, how the hell is the answer bank? I was like,
Wow.
who's promoting going to get a car from a bank? And I was like,
Wow.
oh, I keep forgetting I'm in a corporation. My bad. I was like, some of my research leaked out. My bad. I'm sorry. I'll press the bank button to make you all happy. But everybody looked at me like I was weird. Like I saw debt, I saw a guy that couldn't even afford a good car in the first place, so he runs to the bank to get one, and I'm like, they're still doing this? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's seeping into the real world, and we can't figure out how to tell the masses. How do you tell
Yep.
the masses that it's scary, and like we said, like we really reiterated that it's a scary process. Um, but that it's supposed to be that we're supposed to reteach it to everybody else, like in our own little way, and
Yeah.
say, does it get better? I mean, do you think it's going to get better if we explain symbols and we explain how it works, and that we're not ourselves, and that our mind and our freedom of choice is not truly ours?
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to get any better. I think we'll have a better comprehension. I think we can find if we can find solutions. Finding solutions would be the way to, after you comprehend what you're being exposed to on a daily basis. Anytime you pick up the remote and turn on the television, you're going to see it. Um, you can find solutions where you can be active normally in the world without letting that take over your natural free will. If you can find, but first, comprehending and understanding that that's what's being done is a necessity.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that is the thing. Like, yeah, it doesn't get better if you know these things, but at the same time, like, you can up your comprehension, and that's the only way to really find true solutions to get around the problems that we see every day. Is to know, because if you don't know how you're supposed to find a solution to something you don't even know is a problem in the first place. So I do want to like say that, because I know I stand by that statement. I probably sort of kind of made it earlier, like that's kind of where I was trying to go with my opening statement or whatever, is that if we know about these things, then we can start to counteract them. But it's, if we don't know, how are we supposed to do that? I mean, it's not a happy process. Enlightenment. People seem to, the New Age movement has really tried to push that out, which I think is one of the reasons why I stand with Mark Passio when he says that, the New Age movement is a religion. You can call it New Age-ism, and it's one of the 5 major world religions. And it's not necessarily a good thing, because it's like, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, because you're not, looking at the actual problems. You're just trying to pretend that they don't exist. And because apparently, according to them, you put any awareness on anything, it suddenly becomes real. And I think that's a bunch of BS. I literally do. Like, you have to be aware in order to find any way around what's actually going on in the world. You can't fix problems by not being aware of them. You can't fix, if you're not aware that you have cancer, you will die from it if you do not seek some sort of treatment. And that's just it. Like, if you can't diagnose the problem, how are you supposed to fix it? If you don't know your problem's wrong with your car and then it breaks down, like, how are you supposed to fix it? You didn't know. So it's just better to be aware of something at the very least. And I did want to point this out really fast. Like, I know everybody's seen, like, the symbol for infinity. Something very interesting that I wanted to bring into this discussion, because we want to get on to, electromagnetic warfare and such on human populations across the world, and especially in the United States, where it's extremely advanced, the Western world, is that, magnetism affects the human body in a lot of different ways. And I want to point out, people, I have a link on my website, and I will be adding more to this. So what Crystal was saying she's going to post on her website, I'll definitely, on her Facebook, I'll put on the show notes for the page after the fact to go along with the YouTube video in a couple of days. But if you look at the infinity symbol, and then you look at a symbol of the magnetic, or how should I put this, a depiction of the magnetic field, like flowing around the north and south poles of a magnet, it flows exactly like the infinity symbol, which is extremely interesting to me. And the Earth has a magnetic field, the Sun has a magnetic field. All of these things are out there. But if you look up this guy, if you go to magnetage.com, and like I said, there's a link to it on my site, Albert Roy Davis, and he actually started this kind of stuff in 1936, looking at the North and South Pole of all magnets. They're two separate and distinct energies, and this is the first guy to actually figure that out, at least in modern, modern times. He was doing all kinds of different experiments at this point, and he kept doing it. He actually learned how to heal cancer with this. It was shut down. He was not allowed to continue with that sort of a thing, or at least say that he could. He actually had a device that used powerful magnets that could heal almost any problem with the human body. And it's something that people should be looking into. Now, how this ties into electromagnetic warfare on human populations is that the North Pole, or I should say actually the South Pole, or the positive pole of a magnet, is actually harmful to most of the human body. The North Pole, which is a negative field, I mean, I'm just talking about the polarities. I'm not really saying, people usually refer to negative and positive as the better or, less, better or worse things. Like they'll say, well, that's a negative thing to say, or that's a positive thing to say. I'm just actually discussing the actual magnetic fields. The negative is actually better for you. That is the North Pole of a magnet. And that helps heal the human body. It helps heal plants as well. It helps them grow faster. Very interesting. But if you look at the magnet and you look at its field, you can see this affinity symbol going all the way around. If that maybe that's perhaps its original, maybe that's what it was originally depicting, because it does continue like forever basically. If you have the proper magnet, and the Earth's field works like that as well. It looks a little bit different on the massive scale just because of how it works, but that's a place where it goes. At any rate, these guys discovered you can heal the human body using certain things. You can also make plants grow bigger. Like I said, you can make them grow faster with the North Pole. It's very interesting. But all our modern technology, the cell phones, the Wi-Fi, don't know about Bluetooth, but why would it be any different? They all operate on South Pole, or positive magnetism, which is detrimental to the human system, to healing the human system. So you have to understand that they're putting all this stuff out there on purpose, and that they can actually try to change. They can target people, but they can also attempt to change an entire population's feelings. They can try to influence their moods, make them riotous, for example, or make them, docile. It depends on how they want to do it, but they can do this through the magnetic fields that they're pumping into us. They can change the different frequencies that they operate on, which in turn affects the human body system. And that also brings me into Orgonite, which is something very important. Wilhelm Reich is the guy who basically brought that into public consciousness a long time ago. He was actually around the same time that the other guys were doing it. It was many, many years ago. I can't remember when. I think it was in the 1940s they brought this out. But Orgonite, they usually use copper, maybe it's copper coils, and they use citrine and crystals, and they use like shavings of like copper balls too as well, and they do shavings of steel and shavings of aluminum, and they put these into basically a mold, and they fill it with resin, and this creates this device, if you will, that can clean these energy fields. And I want to put forth. I actually put a link to where you can build your own. It's not really that expensive. You can also create giant ones that will help clean entire areas. It depends on how much work you put into them, how many crystals you put into them. But if you design it properly and you follow the instructions and you add a lot of crystals to it, you can technically create a big one that uses like 6-foot copper pipes. And put the copper pipes at the bottom, go into your resin and everything, and it will help clean the energies for up to 120 miles in all directions. And if you put a whole bunch of these, like if you put 5 of these in your yard, I mean, you will see an incredible difference in how things go. I've seen an incredible difference already just for the few that I have. I have some next to my bed. I have some around my Wi-Fi router, and I have some around my where the internet comes into the house, and around my computers and that kind of a thing. Some people actually build them into phone cases so that you can try to counteract the energies of your phone on the human body. It's a very interesting idea. This is solutions to where we can start to counteract these horrible things that they're doing to us. Because people will do like kind of their own sort of quote unquote warfare against the system by making a whole bunch of these things, like the smaller ones, and just scattering them around town, like throwing them where they're not going to be found, like on the side of the road or something like that, all around wherever you live. because it really will help, counteract this thing. It'll help counteract the energies that they're trying to pump you with, and it helps out everybody around you as well. Andrew Bartzis has actually brought this up, and he says, listen, if you take a bunch of these things and you build them, you will see a big difference because you're cutting out the way the system interacts with us all the time. You're basically transmuting the system's energies to counteract not only chemtrails, but basically all of the electromagnetic radiation that we're being pumped full of all the time, which is, like I said, extremely detrimental to the human body. It's what they use when they target individuals with some of this technology, and when they're just targeting whole populations, this is exactly what they're doing. You can create these things, and you can help. Basically, it's one of the best things we could do passively, almost, because you just set them up and leave them, to help destroy the system's hold on us, to help counteract how badly they can interact with us and cause us to have these horrible, pervasive diseases that are all around us. It's very interesting. It's kind of a really strange thing. Like I said, do your own research, look into it. Wilhelm Reich was a very brilliant guy, very strange guy. I can't say that I agree with everything he's ever done, but the Orgonite and the Orgon energy is extremely important, I think, in the modern times, with the way that the system works, the way that the system is pervasive all around us and uses these electromagnetic signals to harm all of us. Like I said, they can ratchet up that stuff and change it at certain areas, and it's been said that the Wi-Fi in the cell towers could be much more powerful if they operated on the healing qualities. If they change them into like the South Pole magnetism, if they change them to the North Pole, so that they change it to a negative magnetic field, you could actually heal people with this technology while connecting them all simultaneously around the world, and you would not need as many of them. The reason why there are so many cell phone towers is because they purposely limit their power, and they purposely increase their ability to harm us, and that's like the whole purpose to having so many cell phone towers everywhere. And as you watch through the years, if any of you like were paying attention to Verizon's commercials as they continuously updated their coverage, quote unquote, this is part of the process. You can see how much it advanced as it goes. Out west, where there's nobody, there's almost no cell towers. Out here, there's plenty. They're everywhere, and we don't even need this many. We really don't. And that's the whole purpose. That's one of the whole things behind this thing, is that they are trying to harm us. They are harming everyone. It is weakening all of us. It's harming our minds. It's harming our cognitive abilities, and it's the whole purpose. Like I said, you can do things to transmute it. The Orgonite is a big, huge deal with that. It is a very powerful way that we can start to subvert the system, and it's actually not all that expensive to go out and build these things. And it's something that I strongly encourage everybody who's listening to this show to look into and to start doing this kind of like, how should we put this, counterterrorism? Because if you want to call the United States government or the Western, governments as the biggest terrorist organizations on the planet with how they operate and how much control and harm that they do to the populations and get us to go to war and kill one another all the time, this is one of the ways that we can start to free people, because if they're not so harmed by this stuff, then perhaps they'll be able to use their minds in a more constructive fashion and start to see this stuff and wake up for themselves and become part of the solutions rather than become one of the problem. So I know I went on there as a tangent, but I wanted to get into that because I know Crystal wants to get into that as well. So she has some stuff on that, and we're about to go into. We have about maybe 6 minutes before the top of the hour. So is there anybody?
Before we do that, before I go into anything else, I did find a small segment here of what could possibly be a couple of solutions to avoiding subliminal influence. Research, because as we said, knowledge is power. If you don't want the media to control your thoughts and your opinions, then you need to research those topics on your own. Know the source from which you're getting the information. Everyone has an agenda. And understand that we all come from one supreme intelligence source of power, right? The God source. So your power and your intelligence comes from that, right? And we don't have to allow ourselves to be controlled by outside forces. We don't. And if you understand that they've got an agenda, like with the logos and everything, trying to sell or upsell their products, avoid it. Understand it and avoid it.
I agree. I mean, the source field is like the source of intelligence that helps create the whole universe. And I would say that we as independent spirits, that is part of our whole journey, is to become more independent, to become more knowledgeable, to practice, say, that's how we say Gnosticism. Because what you said basically, Gnosis, the Greek word gnosis means to understand, to have knowledge. So therefore, if we want to practice that sort of a thing, we start to learn about our reality. We start to be able to deconstruct it so that we are not caught all the time unaware of what's going on around us. So we can, like I said, become part of the solution. And I think that's a good point because I don't think I brought that up originally. That was you guys. We need to find solutions. And the only way to do that is to start practicing this gnosis because otherwise, all we have are beliefs. If we can't go out and prove these things to ourselves, prove these things to others, through research, through whatever it is that we can do through our own experiences as individual human beings, individual human spirits. The only way to do that is to understand. We have to convert belief systems into knowledge because that's basically what it is. I mean, you're either believing something because you just totally and completely are sold into it, and that's what you believe. So therefore, I'm looking at religious people especially. You believe what these people tell you, and that's all there is to you. So here we go into the break, and I'll see you all, everybody, on the other side. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Revising Reality yet again. As always, this is a listener-supported radio station. If you get a chance, and if you have the means, feel free to support it, please. There's a donate button on the freedomslips.com website. If you want to donate personally to the show, I do have T-shirts for sale. That's about all I got so far. I do plan on putting a lot more of my own art and supportive art to the shows, like up there on that sort of a thing. It's not just T-shirts either. There's like coffee mugs and all kinds of crazy cool stuff. And I've actually never ever plugged it before on the show. It's on the shop portion. You'll see there's a Redbubble account that I have set up, and they're pretty cool. I actually want to buy one for myself just because I want to be able to wear my own shirt. I think that'd be kind of fun. But at any rate, we gotta get back into this. How are you guys doing? You guys still there? Hello?
I'm
you guys
here.
on mute?
I am here. I am reading a little bit on how electronic warfare is activated, how they're doing it, the actual technical side of it. I guess a lot of times I like to get technical. I'm not too much of theory. A lot of people are more about theory and less about practice. But I like to read the technical details.
That's good. Do you want to share any of that?
I will in just 1 second. Let me get back here where I was. Hold on for me. So many tabs, so little time. All right. This is from spectrum.ieee.org, and it's actually entitled Electromagnetic Warfare is Here. And I posted this earlier on my Facebook. So the listeners, if they want to, they can find my Facebook by going to Crystal Turner. I'm looking for a little photo of a lady in a field. And let's see. If they want to find that, just scroll through. It's public. How they're doing it. The walls have eyes. This is about how they were, how they were able to see through walls. Right? You've heard about that, right?
Yes, I have heard about that.
And this to make sure your company's electronics aren't wide open to attack, follow these simple rules of electromagnetic hygiene. Okay, so it goes on to saying an attack might be staged as follows. A large electromagnetic weapon could be hidden in a small van with side panels made of fiberglass. And you know how in the movies they've always got those surveillance vans parked?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe you would be looking out for those. Which is transparent to EM radiation. If the van is parked about 3 to 10 meters away from the target, the EM fields propagating to the wall of the building can be very high. If, as is usually the case, the walls are mere masonry, stone and brick, without metal shielding, the fields will authenticate only slightly. You can tell just how well shielding a building is by a simple test. If your cell phone works well when you're inside, then you're probably wide open to attack. So
Hmm.
the majority of us are wide open to attack.
Yeah. I mean, I would. A lot of people would say it's an advantage to have, your advantage to have your cell phone working indoors.
Right. Well, yes, but then you're also looking at potential electromagnetic warfare by those who know how to do these things.
True. Very true.
Um, there's some very intelligent, evil people out here in the world, and like we said earlier, knowing what's out there is first step in being able to protect yourself from these things.
Yeah. If you really want to get full protected, you almost have to build a Faraday cage.
Yeah,
And there actually is some ways to do that. They do sell really expensive silver sheets.
I've heard of
Um,
those.
yeah, that looked really interesting to me, but I don't have the money for that. Jeez. But they basically hang these things around them and they electrify them while you're sleeping so that nothing can get in. Period. Like you're completely isolated from the electromagnetic grid while you're inside this thing. And that's like the only way to really insulate yourself from an EMP attack, either, which is a much more powerful like way of just frying everything. We've all heard about those, like people fear mongering about the EMP attacks, which, by
Hmm.
the way, nuclear warheads, if detonated high in the atmosphere, will cause this sort of effect. So they could do an EMP attack by just detonating a nuke at high altitude, and that would cause an EMP attack, and it would kill all the electronics in a certain way, and it basically fries them because it reverses the magnetic polarity within the system, so therefore it can't function any longer. So like it fries circuit boards, it fries all that kind of stuff. So if you don't have a Faraday cage or the very least heavy duty shielding around your electronics, they don't work anymore. Period. They can't really be fixed. It's kind of sad that kind of powerful stuff. But at the same time, like you could shield yourself. It just depends on how worried you are about it, I suppose. Um, and it depends on how practical it is, because you have to find a way to do it without. I really don't know of a way to do that extremely cheaply or extremely easily. You could, use like steel shielding around certain things that would work. Like if you build a steel box around your computer, but then again, the computer generates heat, so you have to have a way. You have to have openings in order to heat it or cool it, unless you're using like a water cooled system. Um, so that's something to think about if we were trying to protect our, like, just say a computer tower. Obviously, a laptop is basically almost no way to do that unless your entire house is shielded. Technically, there must be new materials, I'm sure, that could actually do that. That you could build into some of these new space age things like that. Technically you might be able to use the what are those things called? The like the space, they call them space blankets. Um, you Space blankets can do it, actually. So technically, if you took space blankets and used that as part of your installation in your house, you would be able to shield yourself from a lot of this interference. But then again, like you said, you wouldn't be open to using the cell phone indoors. So that's also a challenge. Although I guess you could just get a landline. I personally don't even have a landline. Really don't care to have one. I just have my cell phone. But that's one of those things that I should probably look into. Trying to do something like that. Very interesting.
I think a lot of times people think this is pseudoscience, but actually, they have the technology out there, and you just have to really dig to find the good stuff. I've been looking through this for the last couple of weeks, and I found this other article. It's called "How the Army Plans to Fight a War." I'm sorry, how the Army plans to fight a war across the electromagnetic spectrum. I'm gonna post that on the Facebook too. Um, so the stuff is out there. It's just most people are so caught up in their own little personal, problems, issues, and in their own bubble that they're not really. paying attention to what's being done to us. So they're skeptical at first. But until you've been exposed to it and you do your own research and you listen to those who are experts in the field, then you can get a better grasp on comprehending how you can prevent these things. And I try, with time being limited as it is, I try my best every day to research something in these fields that you and I are talking about tonight.
Yeah.
It's important. It's really important to get the stuff out there because with targeted individuals, and there are several of those, hundreds, thousands of targeted individuals in this country, and probably millions in the world. Um, they feel as though they're alone. They feel like they don't have anyone to listen to them, that no one believes them. And then you have the uh, big pharma and psychologists and stuff like that trying to promote the idea of mental illness while avoiding the topic of this technology being used against their citizens. So get the information out there, talk about it openly. Don't be afraid to talk about things that people are going to, you know, say, well, you're just a tinfoil hat wearing nutter conspiracy theorist. No, the stuff is real. You just have to be willing to take the time to look for it.
Absolutely. I just found an article on the IEE Spectrum website that you had said about, which I did already just put that up. I posted that on the website, Revising Reality, for the show notes for this show. I just found this article, and they're talking about the largest, most extensive animal study shows that there is positive. It's supposed to be a weak, but positive link to cell phones and cancer. Now the funny thing is, I don't trust big name scientific studies for the most part because there's a lot of money involved, right? And they
Right.
basically say with a price tag of $25 million, this peer-reviewed study had lots of problems. It was budget overruns, and it was results were way overdue. And and these people are saying it's weak but positive. Yeah, it's probably more positive than that, but they had to find some way to try to pretend it isn't as bad.
Right.
It's not really that trivial. Plus, then again, they're probably not looking at the fact that it could be turned up or turned down at certain times. That especially the cell phone towers, probably can be turned up or turned down, ratchet up and ratchet down. So when they did the study on the rats, they probably did it so that it wasn't turned up or turned down. It was just nice and even. You know what I mean? Like, because they why in the world would they put that much effort into something that they're getting paid millions of dollars to try to disprove? But they couldn't disprove it. They had to say it was there. It's kind of funny that they had to come at least clean on that. I mean, they don't want to tell people the truth about this because then people would start to look for alternatives to what we currently have.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the information out there. And the more people we have that are aware of this stuff and who are willing to take the time, as I said, willing to take the time to do the research and to speak publicly about it, the less, that we have those people winning with their agenda of debunking and defrauding the thing, and telling people, don't look that way while they're steady doing this to people,
Yeah, look at what popular
perpetuating the
science
lie.
did. Yeah, look at what popular science did for the 9/11 movement, when they basically like destroyed it because they were like, well, there's every reason in the world why this could have happened the way the official story said it did. It's kind of funny, really, because I've heard people like point that out and be like, yeah, it was just debunked, or they look up Snopes and say it was debunked. I'll tell you what,
Right.
Snopes is not actually
And they're
going to promote
funded.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Follow the money.
exactly. That's what we have to do. We have to, the ones that are trying to make us feel like we're crazy or stupid or wrong, they have an agenda, and it's usually money or power.
Oh yeah.
Other than that, why would they personally even care? If they didn't have an agenda, why would they even care about what you're looking at or what you're going through? Right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of the funny thing is that information is power. So therefore, if they limit it, or if the the official quote unquote science, debunks it or whatever it is, then it obviously isn't true according to popular ideas, popular what people say, you know what I mean, like the popular ideas on it. And then again, that ties into the five major world religions, one of them being scientism, the idea that science as it stands continually always has the answers. Like, and it's kind of funny because they look out in space and they're confused. And if you look at the electric universe theory and the electric universe people, they're very fresh ideas, and they're actually be able to predict what you see out in space as opposed to being confused by it. And the funny thing is, the electricity in space ties directly into what we're talking about today, because that's part of the entire human body system is very electromagnetic in nature. And it's the stars are powered electromagnetically, the galaxy is powered electromagnetically. They look out and see all these pervasive magnetic currents, and they try to say magnetic fields, and they say, well, there's nothing that we know could cause that. It must be dark matter. Well, you can't have magnetic fields without electricity. It's just not possible. It's just one of the basic laws of the universe. So when you look out in space and see this, it should be obvious that we're looking at electricity. And electric force, again, connects us all instantaneously, which is something that we should be aware of and understand, so that we are all connected to source instantly, and we all have, that our brains work on electricity. And I did a previous show on this topic, and where I, showed this YouTube video back when I still could do that. I got to figure out what's wrong with my system. But there was the DNA. The DNA is actually electric in nature, and the healthier the DNA is, the more current it can pass, the more current it can what's the right word, conduct. So when it heals itself, because not all the DNA is always functioning at all times due to injuries or illness or whatnot, the more it conducts electricity, the better off and more healthier you are, and it heals itself by doing that. And that's actually the process, behind the white blood cells and attacking invading bodies, is they use electromagnetic principles to attack it. They try to match the frequency to destroy whatever it is that's there. When that system isn't functioning, like an autoimmune disease, etc., then that capability for the DNA in the human body to defend itself is going down. So the better off, the more healthier we are, the more we're able to be electromagnetically free, if you will, I guess is the right word. The healthier we are, the more of that we are connected to, and the healthier we are, the more we're able to defeat illnesses and all that kind of stuff and be healed. Trinity, you got stuff on this?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted. I
noticed.
I think that I think that we all have a certain amount of energy, and I know that I've told you recently that I've been looking more into the brain than the outside.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the misconceptions and why we always like some kind of a weird debate, or we can't really come up with a clear consensus about certain things, is that we keep looking at everybody as the same thing. That everybody has the same capabilities, everybody has the same genetic makeup, everybody has the same brain functions. We do not. So we focus so much on what we could all do as a pack, as a tribe, as like the hive mind, as opposed to us realizing that each of us has a specific capability. Yes, of course, I don't think there's 7 billion people on the planet, but let's say 7. So let's say there's 7 billion people on the planet. Maybe a couple of million can do the same thing. And then there's another million that can do something different. I think that's why some of us can see spirits, why some of us can, see auras, and some of us can connect, and some of us have better intuition than others. The same way as if you go to school and you have better spelling, and then the guy next to you is better at math. If we saw our capabilities, in a sense of yes, the entire universe, including the electric universe, but if we actually tried to hone in more on our individual capabilities, then I think we would be better off. I maybe didn't go to the same school or learn the same course as you did, so my understanding of magnetism, the electric universe, certain writers, would be different. Our perceptions are going to be different, so there's no way for us to actually connect. I can't pronounce the guy's name, and it's really, really difficult, but he's been recently doing TED Talks. And I remember telling you this the other day, that the entire purpose today of our brain function, including Google. Now, Google's looking to get something called Google Brain. Now, very few people know how deep Google goes, but if you do some research, Google has a lot of ties that go very, very far back, way before they became Google. There was always been a hidden agenda, but at some point, it's been said that they want to make us all, like individual nodes of a computer, where our attachment to our electronics, and like the same way with the electric universe, the way that you're stating it, I'm saying that they're using that against us as opposed
Yes,
to
yes.
connecting us. So
Right.
they have this system now where uh, they're telling us that AI is existent and that that's going to take over,
It has
that
been.
computers are smarter than us. It's the absolute opposite. We are actually the blueprint. We're the mold. Our not our human, our brain capacity is what every computer is based on. It is not the opposite. We can do everything that a computer can do. We're just not taught that. And if you look at anybody, I'm talking about anybody in the tech industry, they will tell you the exact same thing. There's a guy right now who is to come up with the computing skills in order to duplicate the human brain, which is almost impossible. Now we have Cray computers that all over the world, even though a lot of people want to say only the U.S. has them. We do. Um, we just don't have the only one. Almost every large civilized place on the planet has these Cray computers, which hold, I mean, tons and tons. They're literally basements miles long, filled with computer information. Everything in those things can still not even come close to the human capability of the brain. Not even close. So this guy's come up with something even bigger than the Cray computer. Now, mind you, the Cray computer is the NSA. The Cray computer is that secret base out in the desert in Nevada that you can get pictures of. I've written about the Gwen Towers and the Cray computers they built down there. That's where our information actually goes. And it's still not even as big as the underground, as as the dark web. But um, this guy was able to get something even bigger than the Cray computer and was only able to come up with the mental capacity of a fly. So then it took a couple of years and they bumped it up, and now they only got it to the mental capacity or the brain frequency of a bee.
Huh.
We are the mold. We have always been the mold. The secrets to who we are and what we do here is the lack of information about our own personal capabilities. I'm not really into movies, and I'm even further away from sci-fi shit. But I will tell you this: movies like the X-Men, um, comic book figures, and I'm not talking about the ones that come from another planet and have powers like Superman. I'm talking about the understanding of us as individuals, how we function under pressure, how we function under love. If you talk about mind control, you talk about symbology, you talk about all of those things. Two things you have to clearly understand: one, the brain is the most important, and two, your heart does not actually control your emotions. Those are two completely different things, and I think that the biggest debate is that we think that our empathy has something to do with our heart or our capability of love. That's the complete opposite, is how far our brain can go, what it can teach us about being in another person's shoes. Not about loving someone physically or loving someone mentally. If we can't separate that, and I still use a heart emoticon to
Yeah, I was
communicate,
just thinking that.
yeah, if I can still use a heart emoticon and still you can comprehend that with your
Symbology.
mind, right? You can compute that with your mind and say, holy crap, that's love. That is not love. That's the way that we've
Hi, you
learned
reached
to
Jonathan's
communicate.
voicemail. Please leave a message.
What in the world is that?
I don't
Pardon
know.
me.
It's not me.
No, don't
I,
worry. It was my fault. What in the world? Anyway, keep going.
yeah, so it does turn into something else. We're not we're not looking at the most important part. Our brain can keep going. The capacity, the let's say the lifetime um, true thing is that those in power want us to live forever. Now I will say it more correctly. They want to live forever. There are many, many people and many, many organizations currently going on this planet that are literally
Noreen,
fighting internal. Sorry, go ahead.
pardon me. No, Noreen joined us, but she was given an echo, so I just wanted to make sure that she knew that, so she wasn't giving out to everybody.
Am I echoing
So
right now?
Yeah, you're
Hey,
better now.
Maureen.
Hey, I'm trying to disclose this echo. Hold on, let me try to do something because he says I'm echoing, so this isn't good. Hold on a second. Okay. Is that better or no?
I think that's better. Yes. So
Okay.
we're
Mhm.
discussing electromagnetic energy, and then we were Trinity's discussing like the Cray computers being like they're trying to emulate the human brain, but they're failing horribly. Um,
Mhm.
which is awesome that they're failing
okay,
so much, but at the same
I do
time they're
want to
tying that
mention one
into
more. I want to
yeah, keep
mention one
going,
more thing
Trinity.
before I stop. There's a man by the name of Jonathan D. Moreno. That's Moreno. This is where I found the information that he's been trying to actually say, stating that not too recently, now mind you, the military has always, and I mean always, been within themselves. Anything that had to do with any of their black projects, and everybody who's listening to this already knows that. So I'm literally beating a dead horse. But he has actually stated that not until very recently have they started bringing out outside sources trying to understand how our brains actually work. They're getting more technical. um, they're understanding that they're not even close. So the only thing that they can truly do, especially for those people who are like RFID chips and they want to chip us, we are chipped. Every single person who has a
I think
laptop,
so
a
too.
television, a microwave, a cell phone, we are all chipped. If you go to the supermarket, if you have a debit card, if you have a bank, you are chipped. That is, they're still confusing us thinking that there's going to be like some dude with like some little gun and he's going to shoot some rice-sized pellet in your hand or your forehead or whatever the hell. All of that is crap. That's already happened. It's been happening way longer than we even thought. Um, so while we're still distracted with the kindergarten stuff, they're already into their doctorates as far as what they need to do with us. They're confusing us with thinking that everything that we do, they're looking into on our computers. They do not have that capability. But don't think for 1 second that they didn't already convince us to give it willingly. We do that as a choice. We give out our information, we share everything on the social media, we do all of that as a choice. We're being confused and it's being done on purpose. All of us are involved, no matter how advanced you are or how dumb you are. We are all part of the problem. And we're looking for answers. We're still lucky enough that they're still so damn dense and full of themselves that they haven't figured it out yet. But don't think that they're not working overtime to figure it out.
Yeah. I did want to. You mentioned the individual, being more powerful by focusing on the own individual, and I completely agree. I mean, you know, I do talk about the overarching view an awful lot, mainly because that does affect us all, and it does help us point us all in the right direction. But in the end, it really does come down to as us as individuals attempting to you know break free and understand ourselves as we go along. Like if we don't do that, then we can't really do all that much. You know what I mean? Like if we don't like understand how individuals can be affected by this, how individuals, are us as individuals, like our own capabilities, what we can bring forward to the table, how we have been programming ourselves and how we can create even more, positive things within our own lives by understanding ourselves. It's
Right.
very important that we start to do that, and most individuals don't seem to be very big on that. It seems really sad. Most people are, just going through life watching TV or doing whatever it is they do. Going to work, like doing the 9 to 5 grind. That's just a normal part of life for us that we keeps us so distracted through the everyday endless minutia. We every day we have to get up and do the same thing. So your house needs to be cleaned. You got to eat. You got to cook food. You got to do your dishes. You know what I mean? Like if you don't do that, then it kind of sucks because it starts to build up, and eventually you got to do it. If you don't keep up with that kind of stuff, it's just personal responsibility on one end. But on the other end, it's everyday, endless, stupid little things that keep us distracted from understanding ourselves. And we
Right.
don't, we don't spend that much time on that. And I think that's
No. And
something
we
that is
should.
extremely important. Oh yeah,
And we should.
I
And if people need to like actually comprehend that in a very simple step, you could think of a chair, right? So yes, there are four things that make a chair that are all equal, right? The legs, but the seat is different. The back part is different. The color can be changed. It's all being something productive, but it's enhancing itself by having its uniqueness. All the parts still have to be unique. Right now, we're in the studio. The studio is helping our message get across, and all of us, Noreen, Crystal, and yourself, we are all bringing something different. With kind of the same outcome. We don't always have to agree, but we all have. Everybody here is part of our own research machine. You know what I mean? Like we're still all trying to make. We have the same goal, um, but it does take all of us to really do something important, and that's how we're supposed to keep contributing, by being different, by being unique. I don't put us under the umbrella that we're all the same. I have bones and you have bones. You know what I mean? That was scary that there was a part of eugenics that because people had a certain color skull bones, we were like literally wiping out generations of people. We have to start looking at it in a more, I want to say, technical sense, a complex sense,
Yeah.
and say, okay, I know that I'm different, but I want the same thing that you want.
Yes. Absolutely. And I wanted to bring up something really fast as we, as we move into, trying to discover ourselves as individuals. Like the healing powers of, natural medicines cannot be understated in this. If you get a chance to look up, um, what the heck is her name? Amber Lyons. She was a frontline reporter on the, in the war of Iraq and Afghanistan, and she ended up getting PTSD, and she had to figure out how to heal herself because the doctors were just trying to put her on antidepressants and all this other kind of stuff, and it was making it worse, not better. I'm not saying that sometimes those things don't have a purpose for some people who really, really need it, and there's almost no way for them to get around of it, at purpose. But you know what I mean, if you can, start to look into natural medicines, we're talking about the psycho healing medicines such as, peyote, or ayahuasca, or the mushrooms, like psilocybin mushrooms. Very important. It's a very important tool to be able to bring that, into our lives to try to get to know our deeper selves, our, the very biggest part of ourselves that we don't even see because we just see this base part of consciousness. We need to bring more of that into awareness, because I personally absolutely love to get into deep level psychoanalysis and deep level psychology based on the tarot and the, understanding ourselves and numerology and the Kabbalah. If that's even how you say it, it's Kabbalah, whatever. But there's four major ones in astrology, and all these things are there. They're ancient sciences to teach us about ourselves, to learn us to heal ourselves, and to bring our darkness into ourselves, as opposed to just putting it in some little box. Like we have to be able to assimilate these parts of ourselves that are generally hidden, from our freaking consciousness, which come out haunt us whenever we're getting frustrated at work or whatever it is. We might lash out at people, or somebody's
Yeah,
really annoying us.
I think the base thing is to tune into the core, the natural core of the human being, because all the elites over the centuries have tried to steer us in this direction, right? In order to be, like you were talking about, distracted, unhealthy, so they can control us and control our money. So we're not in control. We're not steering our own ship, which could be our bodies or our lives. And it's all now, I didn't know this. I'm sure you guys would agree. I didn't realize this till now, and I was younger. I had no clue. I thought this is the world. This is the way it is. But, those of us that are aware, we know, no, it doesn't have to be this way. And life can be simpler. And the more complicated it gets, the more they control us. Complication is actually a control tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It adds to the minutia, the things we have to pay attention to on a day-to-day basis all the time. It keeps us distracted. But then again, if you try to get really, really deep into, yourself, it might be a little bit complicated at first. You might need a lot of meditation and natural healing medicines. Marijuana is another one of those that is much maligned all the time. I think that the public consciousness is beginning to wake up that it's actually a healing thing. I mean, even some of the people I know at work that generally don't get along with my research, have been saying, like, it just needs to be, just at least legalize it. I mean, personally, I'm an anarchist. I don't really want it to just be legalized. I want everything to be. We don't need any laws. Human beings should just hang on and hound on themselves. You know what I mean, and do things like that. We should just be able to determine for ourselves what is it we can and cannot do. we don't need somebody else to tell us these things, especially not our rotten, corrupt system that is there only to serve, the people, who are in power. If you ever see the cops always get away with murder for the most part. So, as human beings, we need to start to break this down, become more, how do I put this? Like, we need to figure out what works for us as individuals and start increasing our own individual power, without harming anyone else. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's actually the process of self-evolution. I know Trinity and Crystal and I, and even you, Noreen, we've all talked about this an awful lot with each other. When I first started talking to Crystal, I started talking about this to her like right off the bat. We were both discussing, personal evolution, something that is extremely important as human beings to continue to, update our not just having beliefs, but continue to practice gnosis, which I brought up right before the last this last hour of the show began. Was gnosis, the idea that we can create, we can learn to understand things through knowledge, through self-knowledge, is one of the most important and most ignored things in as far as aspects of our lives. Most people don't know very much about themselves. And I did want to drop in that I did put links to the neuroscience. There's a couple videos by this guy, Jonathan D. Moreno, which are very important and very good to look at. And I actually posted a couple of his things. He's a book called Mind Wars, and there's some research on beta blockers as well. And that's in how should I put
show
this?
notes.
Yeah, that's in the show notes now. It's all been updated. Thank you, Crystal.
You're welcome. No problem.
I was definitely tripping over my words.
I do it so often. But yeah, we're not all on the same level. We don't all have the same capabilities or the same skill set. So doing an individual path work, figuring, what are your problems? And how can you personally solve these issues for you, in your own time? We can't all be in that same one group think. And I'm so dead against that, even though I am, repeating, but in my own words, which you said, I agree with you. However, with the issues that I've had personally, I don't think anyone else here is actually going through electronic harassment right now. And, Tim and Trinity are aware of what's going on with me. So I have to look at things for myself. And, when you brought up the topic of, on an individual level, I have to look at it for myself. I can't expect everyone else to get what I'm getting because everybody's not going through that.
Absolutely.
Well, Crystal, I don't know if you know, there's I'm sure I can say who it is. Maybe you already know. There's another host on the station who was, electronically harassed, Solaris Blue Raven. She has a show, and she's got quite an interesting story. So, yeah, it's
I would love to hear that. Can you please send it to me?
Yeah, she actually, I could promote her show. She has a show here on Revolution Radio Studio A, and that would be it's actually let me see. Okay. Eastern Standard Time is 12 a.m. So that would be like right on that border of Saturday and Sunday, right at midnight. As it going from Saturday to Sunday, Studio A, it's Raven Star's Witching Hour with Solaris Blue Raven. And she's been on this station for a few years, so by this time it's not like, she has many guests. She may not always talk about that topic, but her regular listeners, and
I can talk to.
Yeah, her regular listeners, no, and I've met her in person, and I'm just saying she's a wonderful, nice person, and she would probably even personally speak with you. Yeah, she went through a lot of that herself. So yeah, sure.
I appreciate that because it's good to know that there are other people out there that can personally relate. Instead of feeling, I've told Tim, there's times I feel alone in what I'm doing, and underneath the harassment and stress from that, that I often feel alone. Well, Noreen, you found another person that I could potentially talk to in the future that understands directly what I'm going through. So thank you for that.
No problem.
Okay, so nobody's talking.
Oh, wait, go ahead. I had some. Go ahead. It's okay.
Yeah. So for those that don't understand at least that part of electronic harassment, it happens in so many different ways. Um, I brought up Jonathan Moreno, and he talks about something that I didn't even know was a thing. So apparently they have these mortars, and they're supposedly non-lethal. So everything that we kind of know now about personal harassment, and for anybody who thinks that that's some bull, you can look up the patent for voice to skull, and that's a very, very, very serious thing. And that happens on an individual basis. You have gang stalking. That's a huge thing
Yeah.
that people should look into. And there's also, especially by the higher ups and stuff like that, if you are a targeted individual, they can do all kinds of things. I had a guest named Laura Cross, and when she would be driving, she would hear things telling her to crash her car when she had her kids in it. There are we call it schizophrenia. We're giving it a lot of names, and we're not taking it seriously. There are special committees in our government that address these problems, where thousands upon thousands of people attend these meetings and discuss
Yes.
the things that are happening to them. There is a very small clip. It's an older clip from when Bill Clinton was in office, where he had addressed and apologized for the voice to skull and for targeting individuals.
I don't
Um,
have the voice to skull, but I have a lot of other things that have been ongoing. It's kind of like subliminal messaging and um, really not being able to concentrate, feeling like I've got lessons, can't articulate my words as well as I'd like to. I noticed that my writing creativity was lessened in the last year and a half. But there are a lot of symptoms, and you're right. There are committee boards that talk about these things, and I was surprised last year when I found that on YouTube. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, Trinity. Go ahead.
yeah,
I
no, of
never heard
course,
about that
'cause
either.
yeah, no, that's a real thing. The
Yes.
patents have always been available. It's been based on a lot of the research at Tesla. We use it now in mass places. And one of the ways when people are like, that sounds way too outrageous. In Japan, because there's so many people in the major cities, um, there is a certain frequency that'll bother somebody over the age of 40 and someone under the age of 40. And only people that in those age groups can hear it. It's kind of like a dog whistle. So in these places, if they don't want kids or teenagers loitering in front of their places of business, they have music playing, but in the background is a frequency that annoys the living crap out of them, and they won't
Wow.
stand there because it's like a doo, and it just doesn't stop. It just plays and plays and plays. So if you're over a certain age, right, because they already figure if you're 40 and over, you probably have money to spend at the store, you could walk right in, shop, walk right. You could loiter. They could just be gangs of 40-year-olds hanging around, and it would never bother them. But if you're a teenager, it's literally like a dog whistle, and they
Ouch.
play that. And I always thought that that was also connected to music and how we identify with certain genres of music, and how people that are older, it annoys the crap out of them, or even older, like when you were a kid, there was a certain song that you really liked, and you got older and you're like, what the hell was I thinking when I was listening to that? And it seems to just annoy the crap out of you. Or how
Yes.
some people love metal, and it's to some people it's like nails on a chalkboard.
I love metal. And
I
I
know
will
you
say
do.
that
That's
I,
why I said
I,
it.
I
I love all kinds
absolutely,
of genres.
I
Me too.
absolutely
I
hate
like all
country.
music too. Yeah.
I hate country. I will say that country is like nails on a chalkboard to me, and if people play that crap, it makes me want to like
Mhm.
scream or punch people or
Mhm.
run away. I don't like it at all, and I have to hear it a
Yeah.
lot at work, and it just makes my day absolute crap.
Oh,
Think
that's
about the
terrible.
mosh pit,
Yeah.
right? How that affects people, how
Yeah.
certain music, right? Now, you can't listen, if you went to a metal concert, not everybody's in the pit.
Yep.
It's certain people that will automatically be attracted to getting into a mosh pit, or even specific songs that will cause that to actually happen. So we all, like I said, it's a brain thing. They get it. They're trying to work it out. We have been trying to control people through their minds for thousands upon, I would say, hundreds of thousands of years. It's always been much easier to control us, in a way that, as long as they confuse us about how we work, then they control us completely. And that's really what's happening now. And just there's only a few of us right now that are literally breaking free. And it's people that are here, it's people that are listening, it's people that are participating and posting real things instead of nonsense and crap. Um, we are trying to break through. It's not like there isn't some kind of a release at the end when it comes down to it, but the fight is real and the fight is continuous. So we really have to decide if it's something that we want to continue on with until like the day we die, because I'm figuring this is gonna have to, this is just me, I can't go back. And I can't like pick a genre like I can pick music, I just can't. I know that there has to be something in the end, there has to be something. And as long as you keep your mind open and your heart, and I don't mean the shape, and I definitely don't mean that disgusting thing in your chest. I'm talking about the way that we associate that part of us that makes us caring, and it makes us want to share.
Passionate.
Yes, yes, passionate, and just hug the people that are just so dense sometimes. You're just like, oh, you're so crazy, I just want to hug you. Thank you for your sports analogies. So when you get to that point, and then you're just like, you don't want to kill them, you're just like, oh, I just hope one day you'll wake up. But when we get to that point, and I see it, I see that it can be happening. I think it's a worldwide thing. We're not doing it here in the United States just yet. But there are other countries out there that are breaking through the veil, and they're doing it hardcore. And I'm hoping that with the current events, we're actually going to get to that point as well. So,
Yeah. I should say, just to add that out there, that the like the music that most interests me, regardless of the genre, is stuff that is really deep psychology, deep symbolism, deep like storytelling. That kind of thing always draws me in. Like I want to hear the music that makes me think. I like the lyrics that make me think. I don't like the stuff that's just BS. Like I really like the Fear Factory, and I actually, the second show that I had what's his name, Derek Bros on here, and we discussed that actually, because his band Menankari, I think is what it's called.
Kari, I think.
Yeah, Menankari. It's really good, and it's definitely a metal type of a genre. And we were discussing, excuse me, Fear Factory, because Fear Factory's lyrics are very anti-system, but they also put forth a very spiritual aspect to them as well. They're very anti-religion as well, but they put forth in a very positive manner. They actually have a song on the album Mechanize that, how should I put this? It's called Final Exit. There's this beautiful piano intro to the song and a beautiful piano, or I should say exit, outro to the song. And like it's all about what happens when you die, and like what is that like? What is it like to hold a hand of a person as they move from living to dead? And that's literally what they say. Like, and it's just so powerful of a song to listen to. And it's one of those songs that they don't have a lot of screaming, so you can actually technically listen to it even if you're not into metal. But that song, I highly recommend that. It's just an amazing spiritual type of song, and it comes from a metal band. So when people try to say that metal's all like killing and all this other hatred and stuff, I mean, there is a place for that, especially if you're angry with the system. If you can vent that in a positive fashion, then there's nothing really wrong with that. But at the same time, like there is beauty in almost all music, and I'm not going to say that there isn't some random old country songs that are kind of cool, but at the same time, I still hate them. I really do. Like I try so hard to like some of them, but
yeah, I'm gonna say this because I'm older. If you really want to hear symbolistic music, especially from back in the day, it's the 80s. There was years later, and I don't know if you guys know Total Eclipse of the Heart. Have you ever seen the video for that?
No, I have not.
For that song,
Look at Total. I can't remember.
Oh my God, yeah, I know. I couldn't remember it either until I went and I said, "Oh, I want to download this song." So I go and I play it, and like it was the spookiest thing I have seen in like forever. There's angels and children with their eyes glowing, and I was just like, "What the? Did I watch this when I was younger?" A lot of the music back then, I mean, now it scares the crap out of me. I was like, man, I was actually listening to that. Like I resonated with this music back in the day, and all of it had something to do with how you call it, just our spiritual beings. It was a lot of ghost stuff. Like I didn't even notice. I never noticed until I got older and I started trying to, I wanted some older playlists, and I was like, man, I don't think I want this anymore because it scared the crap out of me. I was like, this is literally, look up Total Eclipse of the Heart. Can't remember Tyler Bonnie
I've
or
heard
something
of
like that.
it. That sounds, yeah. That's,
Yeah, and I was
oh,
like, oh my god! But it was always something that it felt like I remember saying that the 80s ruined all of my relationships, the 70s and the 80s, because all of it was about love and that you had to have a connection or your relationship would never work, or you just couldn't do anything, like you couldn't function without another being with
Yeah.
you. Like there was no functioning capabilities whatsoever. Like we were just these crazy wandering crazy nut people because we couldn't find our significant other, or we couldn't take enough crap from the opposite sex. And I was like, man, we really got screwed up
Yeah.
by music. The symbols in music, seriously, MTV was one of the biggest perpetrators of, and they still are, the biggest perpetrator in changing generations of
Yeah.
people with the stuff that they put out there and that
Yeah.
they
Look at the
repeatedly
'90s
regurgitate.
too. Yeah, look at the '90s and how like that was, and look at how people reacted to Kurt Cobain's supposed suicide. Because I think there's evidence to suggest that Courtney Love was involved. I'm just putting that out there. If she's listening today, screw you, Courtney. But beside the point,
there is that. Yeah, well,
I do want to say this because we have about probably about 6 to 7 minutes towards
Oh,
the
we
end of the
don't have that
show.
long. We have
So
like a
okay, so I
minute,
would
maybe
like
two.
okay, so everybody should probably start plugging their stuff. This show can be found obviously at revisingreality.com. That is where you will find like the show notes for this show, and I posted the neuroscience stuff that we mentioned earlier, and what Trinity mentioned and what Crystal was bringing up as much as I possibly could keep up with it. Now I will update that, and we will have a YouTube version of this show out in a couple of days. Until then, you can get a hold of the. You can donate to the station and get into how should I put that into the archives and such. Noreen, do you have you want to plug your show?
sure. Thank you. Wild and Hot Roundtable with me, Noreen Help, Studio A, and that would be Eastern Standard Time, 12 a.m. So that's also kind of straddling that Monday Tuesday border right there. And I don't have an active website or anything, but you can hook, or YouTube is kind of like right now, but it'll come up. But you can hook me up on Facebook under Noreen Helphand.
Cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Trinity? I know you got Esoteric Truth.
Yes, still have my website. I've kind of been slacking a little bit due to tons and tons of work, but you can reach out to me at esoterictruth.com. There have been people that have been messaging me. I sincerely promote you guys keep doing that. I have not forgotten about any of you. I will reach out as soon as possible. You can also reach out to me whether you want to talk about a topic or be on a show or you'd like me to be a guest. You can reach me at esoterictruthradio@yahoo.com. I check that daily. Um, and it's one of these things where as soon as I get back, this is going to change everything. We really need to start coming together, and I'm hoping to pull in everybody that's here and everybody who wants to participate in telling the truth. You don't have to have a PhD or be on a billion shows. Have something interesting and bring something to the table. It's time for us to start pulling it together and
Yeah.
start sharing our truths as individuals, but start doing it as a unit.
Yeah.
So thank you, and thank you for having me, you
Oh,
guys.
thank you so much for being on. And what about you, Crystal? You've got your Facebook.
Yeah, just Facebook and here at Revising Reality.
Cool.
That's what I have right now, and that's simple enough.
I think some of us will be joining Keith Roberts on Studio A for his roundtable discussion tonight, starting at midnight. So that'll be on directly after the show. So if anybody wants to continue on listening to things we have to say, we'll probably get deeper into this kind of stuff if we so choose. There might be other callers as well. So I wanted to put that forward that we'll be on Keith Roberts' show. At least I will be, and I know Noreen will be. Crystal, did you want to join in on that too for a while?
Trinity, what were you gonna do, hon?
Oh, I was gonna wait for you. I thought we were gonna
I
continue
was
on.
waiting on you.
Okay, yeah, no. Yeah, I said I wasn't gonna go on the round table.
Okay,
Because
I'm not
I just
going
don't know what to
tonight,
expect.
Tim. I'm gonna
Okay, that's
spend some
fine.
time with Trinity. Y'all have a great night.
Good night. Thank you. Bye,
Good night,
Noreen.
Thank
everybody.
Tim,
you.
Thank you
Crystal.
very
Bye.
much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, sweetie.